Hello guys, I hope you're all good today. I just wanted to make a video about life in general. Now that's a very broad subject to talk about, but it's a subject that has a lot of content. So I have been quite pensive over the past few days about what I'm doing with myself in general, what I feel like I should be doing, and I just felt curious about you guys out there. I've got a few subscribers now, so I figured having some sort of discussion in the comments would be quite good. I'm quite curious to find out your opinions on everything I'm gonna talk about basically now. So, I mean, basically what I'm gonna talk about today is just sort of dribs and drabs of my life. Life in general, education, going into work, why we do what we do, and what we do outside of work to keep ourselves interested, to keep ourselves occupied, to keep ourselves happy. So, if you're the kind of person who happens to be in a similar situation to me, hopefully this talk will be somewhat interesting for you. But even if you're from any walk of life, any background, any situation, you might be curious as to what it's like to be someone in my place at the moment, which is going through a state education, an education provided to me for free, going on to a university education paid for by a loan from the government, and then going out into the world of work, out into the rat race as it's sometimes referred to, and just life decisions in general. Yeah, so I mean, basically, as I say, my background, my education was a standard British education. I went to primary school for 6 years, and then I went to secondary school for 5 years. And we have A-levels, which I popped into for a little while. Again, choosing subjects I wasn't necessarily interested in, but thought that they would be appropriate subjects to take to make me employable after school. Business, IT, chemistry, and psychology. Psychology was the only interesting subject that I'd picked out of those, and it was the only one that I could continue to actually get a grade in. All the other subjects I just dragged through and didn't work in because I just couldn't concentrate, but just didn't know what else I wanted to do with myself at the time. And when that finished, I quit after the year and decided to go to college to study music technology. So the production of music, the physics of sound, space design, studio design, live recording, all of that kind of things. and I had a good time there. That was a good 2 years of education, and then I went on to university to do a degree in digital media, and that was a very lackluster degree. Very I feel like the education system, the education that I got there was very misplaced. I can point the finger and blame other people, when at the end of the day it's down to me to study, but I don't think they have the right idea of what the education we wanted was. It was very much focused around learning to be creative, which I don't think... you can learn to be creative to a certain extent, but if you're going into a course that requires a certain level of creativity, then I don't think it's necessary to really teach you to be creative. My intention was that it was going to be a technical course, that I could learn a huge amount of technical experience, technical expertise from, and then I could use my own creative mind to put those tools to use once I had them. And anytime we had lessons learning technical bits and bobs, you really noticed how much it got people interested in doing stuff. When you learnt a new skill, you wanted to see what you can do with this skill, what new things you can do. But when it was more of a, just like think about ideas, man, and you can just like do things like this, or if you just make up an idea and then you can kind of just like figure out the technical experience yourself, man. It was kind of sort of pointless, because you can do that in your own time. The whole reason I went into university to do digital media was to just learn skills, and then I could use those skills in my future life. But anyway, I won't continue to rabbit on about the education experience I had. One of my friends teaches now, and he teaches just technical subjects, web development and application development, that kind of thing. And the amount of response that he gets from his students is incredible, compared to the rest of his course, the other tutors and stuff, because he's teaching technical experience, and it's getting people interested in doing things. And that's when you start to experiment and just try things. Once you realize that you have these skills and that's established, and you've sat down and learned them, these things, you can go off in your spare time, when you can be creative and think about things and think laterally and all that kind of stuff. You can start to use these skills. So sorry. So we finish university, and then we go out to choose what our next job is going to be, or what our job's going to be from university. For some of you guys, I'm sure if you have grown up in rich Western countries, no doubt if you've gone through education, if you've gone through a higher education, you've probably gone off maybe for a year in other countries, or two. You've had your gap year, and you've been privileged enough to be able to do that, to have a look around, and maybe experience and find out who you are, that kind of thing. And that's really important. And it's a shame that that's not available to everyone, because this is sort of what my whole discussion wants to come down to, is purpose. in life? What is our purpose in life? I mean, do we really have a purpose? Yes and no. I mean, we can make purposes for ourselves. We can give ourselves a purpose. We can give ourselves a target. And we can work towards that target or those targets, depending on what your priorities in life may be. But on a fundamental level, do we really have purpose? You know, we come onto the earth, we live, we eat, we procreate, we get old, we die, we do our jobs, and then we stop doing our jobs. So I guess our only purpose is to fulfill our needs within ourselves, whether that may be through purely self-driven motives to better oneself, or maybe through helping one another. I know that I get satisfaction from helping others. That gives me purpose to be useful to other people. I feel that gives my life validity, because just doing things for yourself seems pointless. But that's my view. I know a lot of people that are out there just for themselves, and I don't know a lot of people. I know of a lot of people that are out there just for themselves, and they seem to live fantastic lives. So one of the big issues, one of the many issues when you leave education, is you have all these decisions to make, and there are a huge amount of decisions out there to make. One of the issues that we have after we finish university and we have to make all these decisions now these days is the huge access to information that we have via the internet. The fact that we're connected to the entire world the whole time, and we can find out about all these great people, these people that have achieved huge, fantastic things at such young ages, and we can find out about all these different people at the tops of their respective fields, and all these individual stories about success and achievement. And obviously most of us would aspire to be those sorts of people, to be at the top of our field, to be the best at whatever it is we happen to do. And it puts a lot of pressure on kids, on young adults leaving education to be the best. And obviously it's not always possible to be the best, but it's a matter of being comfortable with what you can achieve and being happy with your level of achievement. Pressure comes from family and peers as well, depending on what education you may have gone through. Your peers, you would be in active competition, I suppose, with your friends, with your peers, and your family may have certain expectations of you to achieve, to make big sums of money, and to have an important job and be respected and by a lot of people, and all those sorts of things. But for people, and I think I put myself in this group, for some people those sorts of things, although they're expected of you from certain people, aren't what you aspire to be. You don't aspire to be rich. You don't aspire to be important. You don't aspire to work in a corporate environment for a big company. You maybe don't care about things like that, because I've worked for big corporate entities, banks, supermarkets, electronics providers, that sort of thing. And there's nothing in those jobs that inspired me. There's nothing in those jobs that made me want to do them, because I was doing them for money and I was doing them for someone else's gain, the gain of a hugely already established company that has its own motives, and in more or less all of the cases their motives were profit and just making big piles of money. And doing whatever it required to make that money. And just making money seems like such an arbitrary purpose. It is what runs the world, especially in its largely capitalist environment that we have in the West. It is what runs everything. And that's why it seems like that's the thing that we have to strive to get, this arbitrary number that gives us value in the world. But obviously money, currency, is a man-made idea, and it is an idea. It is just an assigned value to someone. Some people get lucky and they make huge amounts of money. Some people can be in the same field, work just as hard, be unlucky, and get nowhere. And what separates these two people is not their abilities or their worth, their true intrinsic value to the world. They're both effectively the same person, but one person is now more valuable than the other purely because of this number, or this lucky break that they may have had that could have made them a large amount of this money that we use. So that's why I feel money doesn't drive me, even though it does drive the world. What drives me, I mean, I find it hard to find drive these days, but the idea of just doing my part for the world in general would make me feel good. Helping other people to improve their lives, working with the environment, helping to reduce the impact that humans have on the world. Things like that, things that will better humanity in the long run. Not that I like humanity as a whole, but I am a human. And I feel that humanity has the potential to go on and obviously be important and potentially an incredible thing, especially with the advances that we're making in technology so quickly over the past 50 years. The exponential growth of our technology is fascinating. If you look at a timeline of humanity, the progress we've made in such a short period of time shows that surely we're going to be able to do something quite incredible in the next few hundred years. I mean, who knows? There must be new breakthroughs somewhere along the line that's going to take us far. Maybe outside of my lifetime. Probably outside of my lifetime. Anyway, so I'm rambling a lot here, but I guess that was half my intention with this video, is just to talk. Sometimes people just like to hear a lot of talking to get them to sleep. I certainly do. But yeah, if you happen to be a guy or a girl like me, mid-20s, don't really know what you're doing, then just know that you're not alone. Yeah, it's hard to find really what you want to do with your life. I mean, there's exercises you can go through. What I would suggest is doing simple things like writing lists about things that you hate, things that you don't want to do in your life. Put them down, write them down in a list, and work on extracting them from your life. Because if you can figure out what you don't want to do in your life, then you'll easily be able to gravitate towards stuff that you do want to do. And I put it that way round, to get rid of things that you don't want to do, to gravitate towards things you do want to do, because perhaps you don't know what you want to do. I certainly don't know what I want to do. I find it hard to pin myself to something. I think the reason that is because I feel like there's probably an arrogance really in my mind that I think I can do. There's a lot I could do with myself if I put my mind to it, but it's that commitment and it's that drive to focus myself onto one thing for an extended period of time, long enough to pick it up and to have a profound effect in a field, and to then not feel like I've wasted my time with a bad decision. But this is the fallacy of choice. Choice is good to a certain extent, and then it becomes too much. For me especially. I think this is the case for a lot of people. When there's so much choice, we naturally want to make the best choice, but it's hard to know you've made the best choice when there's so many things laid out in front of you. There was I was reading a book called The Art of Thinking Clearly, and one of the psychological studies that was carried out in this book is a company selling I think it was ice cream, but it could be anything with various flavors. They had different open days where they would sell the ice cream. On one day, they had a fairly limited selection. I think it was about maybe 12 items to choose from, possibly even less than that. A very specific choice of flavors that you could take away. And they had another open day where they had a huge selection, maybe 30 different flavors to choose from. And what they found was, on the days where they had a limited selection, sort of a good selection of flavors to choose from, people bought far more of the flavors than they did on the days where they had this huge selection. People were allowed to try all the flavors, no charge, just to choose what flavors they liked. But people found that they could make a decision and they could buy a product. They could buy a flavor of ice cream when they had this small selection, compared to when they had this huge selection. It was just a matter of, I don't know, I can't pick one. I'm not going to pick anything because I feel like I haven't picked the right one. Whereas when you had this limited selection, it was a matter of, it was quite easy to pick out which one you liked more in the smaller list. So, this fallacy of choice is a big issue these days when we have access to the internet and access to information about so many people doing so many different things and all these things going on all around the world, and a matter of finding what means a lot to you and being happy with what you want to do. Because I think there's a lot of worthwhile things out there, profound things you can do out there that would be hard to do. And it's a matter of if you feel like you can be the person to take that sort of responsibility on board. Anyway, so I am rabbiting on. I'll listen back to this video and I'll decide if I need to edit any parts out of just my talking, because I do go on, especially when there's no to and forth with another person. I'm just talking to a camera here. So this is just an open stream of consciousness. So I apologize if any of it doesn't make sense and I'm just kind of blurting stuff out and thinking of things and not articulating myself efficiently. So what I want to say is, if you're in a situation where you don't know what you're doing, you're not the only person. Just find what you don't like and make sure you can get rid of it out of your life. And then think about people you find inspirational. Find people that you would aspire to be. Find people that you think are cool. It would be cool to have a life like theirs, to be a person like that. Think of a big plan. Think of a 10-year plan. Don't think of it step by step, but think of a target, a big target, because a big target are the things that are going to change your life. That's going to make you think in a certain way. The small plans are just, precautions. It's just like little bits of first aid. But big plans are things to go for. And even if you don't succeed in them fully, making that progress, improving your life, heading towards that goal helps and gives you purpose within your own life. Yeah.